Okay, my friends, here it is, the second video in the How to Grow Mushrooms Indoors Over the Winter series that we're doing on this channel. So you've watched the last video that I made that explains an overview of the process and familiarizes you with the terms. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time explaining what each term means in this video so that we can just streamline it and get right into it. So I'm going to say a few words about the process, and then I'm going to take you into the basement and show you exactly what I'm talking about. Now, what are we doing? Now, before we even think about growing any mushrooms or inoculating any substrates, we must first establish the fruiting chamber, the area where the mushrooms are going to fruit. And this is very important, which I'll get to in a moment. Now, what are the fruiting conditions? We have to have decent airflow without having a breeze directly on the mushrooms, and we have to, most importantly, have very high humidity. 80 to 90% humidity is ideal. And here's why they need such high humidity, because mushrooms are very different than plants. Plants, when they grow to expand, they have to divide cells. They grow by cellular division. This process is somewhat slow and requires a lot of power, like from the sun. Mushrooms are different though. So the mushroom mycelium will grow by cell division as it colonizes the substrate. But once the substrate is fully colonized and it's triggered to fruit, meaning it receives oxygen and some light, then it's going to produce what is called pinheads or primordia, real tiny little mushrooms. And by the time the mushroom is this big, all the cell division that is going to happen has already taken place. So that when it goes to fruit, all it does is soak up the water and it swells up really big. It enlarges the cells. This is magnificent. And so that's why it can go from a tiny little pinhead to a full-size mushroom like this in 5 days, 3 to 5 to 7 days, depending on conditions. So for that reason, it is very important to have the humidity and the airflow proper. Now, I'm going to show you in this video 3 techniques that I use. And we're going to utilize the bucket method here. So get yourself some food grade 5-gallon buckets with the tight fitting lid like this. All of it's food grade. So you'll see in the thing downstairs which bucket is right for you. So without further ado, let us get into it. Okay, my friends, here is the super tight budget method as promised. First thing we're going to do is utilize the 5-gallon bucket. And then we're going to trace a cardboard cutout about 5 inches or so larger than the diameter of the bucket. We're going to cut that out so that we have this disc, and then we're going to place the disc on top of the bucket. And then we're going to take a large see-through trash bag, and we're going to open it wide and place it over the top of the bucket. And the cardboard cutout is going to keep the bag off of the mushrooms, because there's going to be holes in the bucket and there's going to be mushrooms growing out of it in the future. And so we're just going to put the sides like this so that there can be some airflow, and then we're going to cut the holes in the side of the bag about every 5, 6, 7 inches, something like that. But there needs to be airflow in the bag. So it's going to look like this, and the bag is going to keep it off of the mushrooms, and then the holes is going to allow for some air exchange while maintaining a high humidity. Now, to gauge that humidity, we must use the humidity gauge. So we can place it inside like that to make sure. And then with this method, we have to spray it like such once, twice, maybe even 3 times a day, depending on how dry our environment is. Once or twice would be adequate with this method. Okay, the next method we'll call the small timer method. No shame in the game, but it's just not big timing. So for this, we're going to use perlite, the standard kind you find at any horticultural store. Then we're going to take a big basin like this one, and we're going to place inside of it a strainer like this one. And then we're going to pour the perlite into the strainer, and we're going to saturate it really thoroughly and let it soak with water. While it's soaking, we're going to take this here 85-liter tote that we just got from Walmart for like $10, and we're going to use a 2-inch hole saw, and we're going to make 6 holes in this thing, about halfway up, a little bit higher towards the top than halfway of the tote. It doesn't matter so much. You need to have 2 holes on the long side and 1 on the short side. So it looks like this. And now, once it looks like that, we're going to strain off the water from the perlite. And we don't have to strain it really good though. We want it nice and wet. And then we're going to pour it into the tote. Then we're going to spread the perlite so that it's 2 to 3 inches thick, at least 2 to 3 inches thick. And then we're going to use these small buckets here, and we're going to be placing them, once they're inoculated and stuff, we'll be placing them inside the tote like this. And so we're going to always remember to put the hygrometer that tells us how humid it is. We're going to put the top on, and then we're going to place it. See, 90% humidity at 70 degrees. This is perfect conditions. We're going to place it in the upper bathroom just so that it's nice and out of the way, and you won't forget about it, and it'll get some humidity from the shower, and this is a great method. So the next method we call the big baller, and you will see why. So as you can see by these gauges, everything is running smoothly in the environment. Between 80 and 95% humidity, between 55 to 75 degrees, plenty of airflow, as you can see by the nice mist that is being blown around the tent. And this is all self-contained in one of the tents. And these tents are very nice because we can control the environment so easily. You see here, most importantly is the humidity. And this humidifier has a humidistat already built into it, which is so nice. You just set it at 85 and forget about it. And this little fan here is running 24/7, circulating the air. And up here we just have a standard 25 watt T5. You could also use a shop light. They don't need much light. Here we have the CO2 meter, which tells us the parts per million, also the humidity and the temperature. But this is going to become very important once we got 4, 5, or 6 buckets in here all fruiting at the same time. We need to make sure that the CO2 doesn't build up because mushrooms inhale oxygen and exhale CO2 like humans. So we have to evacuate it from the grow tent. Now, how are we going to do that? Right here in the corner, you will see the vent that we have cut a hole in the side of the tent, and we have the exhaust fan pulling all the air out of the tent. So it is on a timer, and every 2 hours for 15 minutes, this exhaust fan kicks on and it pulls the air out. See, we have it set on medium here, and we got the whole thing on a timer. So every 2 hours for 15 minutes, guys, the whole system is on timers. The lights are on for 12, off for 12. The fan and the humidifier are on 24/7. Now, the only reason that I've got everything plugged into one extension cord is because this entire setup only pulls a maximum of 150 watts. Most of the time it's 90 watts, but when the fan kicks on, it's 150 watts. That's all the energy consumption this thing is taking. So you see, humming right along, 85% humidity, and the mushrooms are starting to fruit. Now remember, they've already gone through all the cell division that they're going to go through, and now they're going to swell up many times over in size within 3 to 5 days, maybe 7 depending on the environment. But guys, this is the ideal setup. You just set it and it runs smooth like a Cadillac. So there you go, my friends. Now you can decide which method is best for you. The first 2 methods, they do work. They are effective, yes, and I've used those many times in the past. Are they ideal? No, because they require a much higher degree of energetic input as far as you have to check them multiple times a day, spray them multiple times a day, and there's a lot higher degree for operator error as opposed to the baller method, the last method, whereas just once everything is set up, you just forget about it. Everything's on timers, the humidity is right, the air exchange is right. You're going to have much greater success with the baller method. Now, yes, there is a higher upfront cost. But if you divide that between 3 to 5 or 7 or 10 years, however long you're growing them, it's not bad at all, okay? So you definitely will have more success utilizing the grow tent method that I showed you. So if you would like to do the same, links to everything I have used are in the description below. You can get the whole setup with the links in the description. So get all of this right, okay? So it'll be about a week and a half before the next mushroom video so that you can get this growing chamber right. The conditions have to be stabilized, and that means 80 to 95% humidity, 60 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, even as low as 55 if need be, and good air exchange without direct air blowing on the mushrooms themselves. Okay, so if you want to get the mushrooms and the equipment, all the stuff, links are in the description. So the next video that's going to be coming out is about the composting the leaves and stuff in the garden, because a lot of you have been asking and I haven't forgot. Don't worry, it's coming.